All right, so I would like to tell you a story, another story, if that's okay, because we like stories. Rabbi Shalom Shadron said over this story, it's a Kavaldig Maisa. I think he was at the Koisel when this happened. He was at the Koisel, and he sees two big motorbikes, but like the Harley Davidson style, the huge, massive, huge ones. And these guys were on the motorbike, leather jackets, the earrings, the whole situation. It was an unbelievable thing, unbelievable. And he's watching the scene. Not only do they get into the main area, but they get right in there. They're allowed to go mamish like by the ramp area. They're allowed straight in. All the security allows them in. Obviously, like to either famous or very wealthy or whatever people. So everyone's watching the scene. You can imagine, right? And what happens is as follows: they both get off the motorbikes. They both go over to the wailing wall, and one of them takes out a piece of paper and he starts scribbling something. He shows it to his friend. His friend looks at it, nods in approval. He folds up the piece of paper and he puts it into the wall. They give a kiss to the wall and then off they go. They're gone. As soon as they came, they're gone. And everyone's like, okay, who's opening up the paper? Right? What's inside that piece of paper? What happened over there, yeah? So someone actually did. I don't know whether it's the right thing or the wrong thing is relevant now, but they did. They opened it up and they realized the whole story. These two guys on the motorbikes were two people that played for one of the big teams in Israel. And they had a huge game to get to the finals, and they had to win that game. And they came to the Koisel to daven, and they asked Hashem, "Can we please win?" So Rabbi Shalom Shadron said over the story, and he said, "You know what it shows? It's an incredible thing. Some people look and say, that's how you come to." But it's an incredible thing because they understood the koich of tefillah. They understood what it means to daven. That is what you need to do to get what you need. If you want to be matzliach, if you want to get somewhere, the only way is through tefillah. I want to move on today. We've been discussing the last couple of days the inyan of koich of tefillah. So I want to move on now to the same idea, but moving on to different topics in the same idea. Could you imagine? Imagine if you want to go to Buckingham Palace, or if you want to go into 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue. Am I right? It's the White House, right? I think that's what it is, right? It's not so simple. You can't just walk in. I read a story once of a Rebbe who did an incredible thing, really incredible exercise. I don't know which grade he was teaching, I think it was younger kids, and he pulled out his phone, and he called a number, and he put it on loudspeaker, and he answered the phone. "The White House, can we help you?" "Yes, I'd like to speak to the president, please." They're like, "Who's speaking, please?" "My name is Rabbi Levine, whatever. I'd like to speak to the president." They're like, "It doesn't work that way. You need to make an appointment. You need to speak to the secretary. You have to have a region." "No, I just want to speak to the president. Just give it a couple of minutes. I need to speak to him." No such thing. You've got to call up the White House and speak to the president. He said, "Thank you very much. Have a wonderful day." He put down the phone. He said, "My dear Talmidim, you want to speak to the president of the United States, one of the most powerful men in the world? You can't. I want to speak to him on the phone just for a minute. I want to tell him thank you. I want to ask him something." Nothing. You want to speak to Melech Malchei Amlochem HaKadosh Baruch Hu, the creator of the world. You want to speak to the Rabbeinu Shalom. You just have to speak. You don't need appointments. You don't need social security. You don't need secret service. You just go. You walk into a shul, or you can just speak from your bed. Or you can speak when you're walking on the street. We have an opportunity that we don't even have. Just imagine, you want to walk into Buckingham Palace, you want to walk into the White House, you need secret service, you need security checks, you need appointments, a certain way of dressing, a certain way of acting, a whole mahalach, a language, a this. You want to talk to a Rabbeinu Shalom? You just talk. It's an unbelievable thing. And we should take this maybe more seriously when we walk into a shul. Because we're walking into the Beis Elokim. We're walking into the Mikdash Ma'at. We're walking into a place where the Rabbeinu Shalom is found all the time, and we just roll in there and just, put on the phylacteries, and we pray a little bit, with the siddur, without the siddur, talking a bissel, not talking a bissel. What are you doing? You have an opportunity to walk into the Rabbeinu Shalom's house. You're walking into the Melech Malchei Amlochem's house, and you just roll in there and act whatever way you want to act. Hashem Yirachim. We'll talk about that at a different time. But I want to tell you an incredible chazal, which is such an important idea for the inyan of tefillah. There's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Yud Ches Amud Aleph. What the Gemara tells us like this. Listen carefully to this Gemara. It's an incredible Gemara. Okay, listen to the Gemara. The Gemara says like this. Reb Meir, right? It's a Gemara in Rosh Hashanah. You're learning Rosh Hashanah, right? Yud Ches Amud Aleph. Wait till you get this Gemara. You'll understand about it. You have to Yud Ches? Yud Zayin. Listen to this Gemara. It's unbelievable. Okay. The Gemara says b'shem Reb Meir that there were two people with the same illness. There were two people on the gallows about to be hung. One person recovered and the other person didn't. One person was saved from being hung and the other person was different. Says the Gemara, what's the difference between the two people? Again, got two people in hospital, two people are ill. Same illness, same severity. One was saved, one got a refuah shalema, and the other one did not. And the Gemara says, what's the difference? You know what the Gemara answers? One davened and one did not daven. Right? What does that mean? One davened and was answered, said the Gemara, and one davened and was not answered. Asks the Gemara, what does that mean? What do you mean one davened and was answered, one davened and was not answered? What's the pshat? So the Gemara says, one davened the tefillah shleima, and one did not daven the tefillah shleima. What does that mean? Rashi says, what's the definition? How do you define tefillah shleima? Nischaven. How we would say kavana. No, but so let's just take a step back for a moment and we'll get back into the Gemara. What does this mean? I have two people in hospital who have been told by the doctors they have a terrible, terrible disease, a terrible illness. I don't know if you're going to make it. Do you not think that if they would open up their siddur, they would both daven with kavana? Like, I mean, you know, Bishlam asked for mincha. No. Oh, but people in hospital who know that their days, their hours are numbered, they're not going to have kavana. The Gemara seems to tell us, as explained by Rashi, one was davened and was answered, one davened and was not answered. What's the difference? One davened a tefillah shleima. What does a tefillah shleima mean? Nischaven, said Rashi. He had kavana. Well, a guy wouldn't have kavana. Why would a guy not have kavana if he's about to die? Or he's begging for his life? That's the question that we're going to ask on this important Gemara. Okay? I mean, there wouldn't be a more heartfelt, real tefillah than a guy who was told by the doctors, you've got a few hours to live, you better daven for your life. You pick up a telem and you beg, you storm the heavens. So what does it mean? What does it mean? One davened a tefillah shlema, he was saved. The other one did not daven a tefillah shlema, he was not saved. They both davened, but what's the pshat? One was answered and one wasn't. And I think this is going to be the key for us. We've been talking about the koich of tefillah, now we're going to talk about how to make it work l'maisa, how to make tefillah really effective. And the answer says Rav Eli Lopian Zatzal. Rav Eli Lopian explains pshat in the Gemara. Nischaven in Rashi doesn't mean what we translate it to mean. How do you translate nischaven? Kavana. How do you translate kavana in English? Intention, concentration. Yeah, is that a rough, good, pretty good at translating? That's what we would say. Which makes no sense, because why would a person not have kavana? Says Rav Eli Lopian, it doesn't mean that. You know what nischaven means? This is the key, Rabbi Say, to tefillah. This is the key for a tefillah being answered. Says Rav Eli Lopian, pshat in the Gemara in Rosh Hashanah Yudches, nischaven means they believed in their tefillah to be answered. They believed that it will be answered, which means if you have two people in the hospital, two people on the gallows, the doctor walks in and says, I'm terribly sorry, but you have a terrible disease, I don't know if you're going to make it. So a yid picks up a tehillim, a yid picks up a siddur. That's what we do. One of them davened with all of his heart, believing that the Rabbeinu Shalom could change anything. And the Rabbeinu Shalom could give him refuah shalema. And the Rabbeinu Shalom can make it happen. And he believed in it. And if he believed in it, it will happen. The other one, it's a Gemara, Rabbi say. The other one did not daven a tefillah shlema. Did he daven? Sure, he davened. But he davened already picturing the Levaya, who's speaking at the Hespedim. So he didn't daven a tefillah shlema. Now, obviously there are exceptions. Obviously there are times that the Rabbeinu Shalom, even if you daven a tefillah shlema, will sometimes say the answer is no, which we'll discuss as well. Be'ez Hashem. A lot of people ask that question. I think Dovi asked that question. Why? Sometimes you don't get. You could daven the best tefillah and you don't get it. The answer is you davened a beautiful tefillah, but it's not good for you. And the Rabbeinu Shalom understands better than you, and that's the reason why he says no. So what we're saying now, obviously there are exceptions. There are times that even if a person does daven a tefillah shlema, sometimes the Rabbeinu Shalom will say no, it's not good for you. We know this almost from Moshe Rabbeinu. When Moshe Rabbeinu wanted to come into Eretz Yisrael, what happened? Parshas V'eschanan. What's Parshas V'eschanan? Moshe Rabbeinu davened, and what did Rabbeinu Shalom say? If you daven one more time, I'm going to have to let you into Eretz Yisrael, because that's the koich of Tefillah. So I didn't let him in, because it was bad for Klal Yisrael. If Moshe Rabbeinu would have been in Eretz Yisrael, why was that bad for Klal Yisrael? Because Moshe Rabbeinu would have built the Beis HaMikdash, and Chazal tell us, the Zohar says it clearly, that if Moshe Rabbeinu would have built the Beis HaMikdash, it would never have been destroyed, because anything Moshe Rabbeinu built was never destroyed. If the Beis HaMikdash had never been destroyed, then the Rabbeinu Shalom would have had to take his quote-unquote anger on us, and not on Eitzim V'Avonim, on stones and wood, which is what he did by the Beis Hamikdash. He took his anger out on the Beis Hamikdash by destroying the Beis Hamikdash and keeping us alive. But if the Beis Hamikdash would have been alive and would have been staying there, not being destroyed, then we would have had to be destroyed. And that's the reason why Moshe Rabbeinu was not good to come to Eretz Yisrael. So Rabbeinu Shem says, I'm going to have to let you in because you just keep on davening and this is going to go through. Stop! Pasha V'eschanan, that's what we know. That's the koich of Tefillah, Rabbi say. It says, when the Gemara says one daven then he got answered and one daven he didn't get answered, means because one daven with total belief that when I am davening now, the Rabbeinu Shem is listening and anything can change. It's Tefillah Shleima. That's what it means. That's the definition of that. And that's how important it is for a person to realize that his tefillahs really count. And yes, sometimes the answer is no. And yes, sometimes the Rebbeinu Shem says, I'm not going to go on your tefillah because it's not good for you right now. Why? We don't understand. We don't understand the Rebbeinu Shem's ways. Moshe Rabbeinu asked this question. The Gemara Brachos brings it. Daf Hey. That Moshe Rabbeinu asked the most famous question. We discussed it when we discussed Chovos HaLevavos right in the beginning. That Moshe Rabbeinu asked the question to Rebbeinu Shem, how do you run the world? Why do good people have bad lives? Why is it that the good people have such hard, terrible, tzaddik lives? What's the pshat? And the Rebbeinu Shem says, you will not understand. You will never understand. You'll see the back of me, not the front. Why? Because you only see afterwards. You'll never see before. B'shas Ma'aseh. We don't understand. It's the tapestry that you turn around and see, all the wires and the threads in different colors going in different directions. It looks like a big mess, right? Turn it around. Wow. Look at that beautiful picture. Now you see it. But originally you didn't see it. So the yesod is that we don't understand how the Rebbeinu Shem runs the world. But that's not our business and our job. Our job is to realize that the concentration that we have to have in tefillah is so real that we believe that we ask the Rebbeinu Shalom, Rafa'enu, Salach Lanu, Tekah B'Shayfa, Es Tzemach David, Parnasa Baruch Aleinu, the Rebbeinu Shem can give it to us. Believe. As we said, always talk to the Rebbeinu Shem. They asked Rabbi Sol Salanto about 150 years ago that when they were davening a little bit better, so a yid came to Rabbi Sol Salanto and said, Rebbe, it takes me 8 minutes to say the Shemona Esrei. How can I possibly concentrate on it? 8 minutes. How can I possibly concentrate on every single word of Shemona Esrei? In 8 minutes, I start thinking about, I've got a doctor's appointment, and what are they serving for breakfast? You think they're going to have baguettes today for breakfast? I don't know. What about freshly squeezed oranges? I'm thinking, that's what I'm thinking about during Shemona Esrei over here, right? I've got a business deal. How am I meant to figure it out during 8, So, Rabbi Sol Salant had a beautiful answer. He said, in Salant, there's a circus that just came. I want you to go to the circus, and I want you to watch the guy who's going over the tightrope, and tell me what happens. It's a weird request from the biggest ballet master of the generation, but if Rabbi Salanta tells you to do it, so you do it, right? So he went, and he came back from the circus, and he said, Rebbe, I did what you told me, I went to the circus. So he said, tell me, how long did it take for him to go from one end of one end of the rope to the other end on this tightrope? He said it took about 8 minutes. He said, tell me something, did he slip? No. Did he fall? No. How did he do it? 8 minutes, a long time. How did he do it? He said every second he was concentrating on his next step. He was concentrating, he didn't think of anything else. He put everything, I don't care what's going to be for lunch, I don't care what's going to be supper. There may not be a supper if I fall and I don't concentrate. And therefore I'm going to concentrate on every single moment and everything it is. So asked Rabbi Salanta, why did he concentrate so much? He said, what do you mean? If he wouldn't concentrated completely on the wire, he would have for sure fallen and would have died. A person can concentrate when it means something to you. And that's what we have to realize. That's what we have to realize when tefillah means something to you, when it's absolutely real. We have to realize that we have an opportunity to have an audience with Melech Malchei Amlochim HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That's what tefillah is. And it doesn't have to be during Shachris, Mincha, and Maariv. It can be any time during the day and night. Wherever you are, doesn't make a difference. The Rebbeinu Shem wants to hear from you. And Rabbi, so we'll just end with one last Gavaldige Maisa. I don't know if any of you are familiar with BMG. Some of you probably are. BMG is Lakewood's. I was Zoicha to go and see the yeshiva. It's beautiful, guys of Mamish Steigem, it's unbelievable. But there's a very, very interesting minhag, which I think they still have today, of they have a very interesting minhag of the Chavusa tumult, the beginning of this month. Right? First day of this, it's a mess. Beginning of this month, for those of you that are not familiar with BMG, Lakewood's wonderful yeshiva, is at the beginning of this month, they have a Chavusa tumult. That means everyone's all over the place finding Chavrisas. No one knows would you learn with me? Would you learn with me? Everyone's finding their first Seder, the second Seder, night Seder, Ben Asdorim, Friday, Erev Shabbos, Motzei Shabbos, Friday night Chavrusas. It's unbelievable what goes on over there. You know something? They noticed something incredible. You know what they noticed? They noticed that there was a guy who wasn't the best learner. Wasn't the most choshev guy. Wasn't a quick guy, schwach, a medium guy. Seemed to get the best chavrusas every single time. It was like, wow. Everyone was like, how does this guy get the best chavrusas every Zman? It makes no sense. And then someone decided, you know what? On the first Zman, I'm going to follow him around. There must be a secret, like maybe he gives them money or maybe, how does he get the best chavrusas? So they decide they're going to follow him around, and one guy follows him around, and he doesn't see anything abnormal. He sees the guy walk over to one of the best guys in the yeshiva. Would you learn with me? Yeah, sure. Okay. He sees him go to the next guy. Would you learn with me second set? Yeah, sure. He goes like the best guys in the yeshiva. He asks them a question. They say yes, and that's it. He's like, well, he didn't do anything special. How does he do this? It's so hard to get chavrusas. Some people are left without chavrusas. The best guy normally goes to the best guy, the medium with the medium, the low with the low. How does this guy, who's a medium guy, get the best? And after they realized, straight after he got all his chavrusas, he went to the payphone, and he called his mother. And he said, all right, Ma, you can stop saying, tell him now, I've got all my chavrusas. The tefillah of his mother is what caused everything. Rabbi said the koyach of tefillah is such an incredible thing. We have to believe in it. Be'ez Hashem, tomorrow we shall continue with more.